In social psychology, we discuss three levels of social influence: conformity, compliance, and obedience. Conformity is a change in response after exposure to social information, such as a group majority opinion. We'll distinguish between informational conformity and normative conformity. These two types of conformity differ in terms of the situations that evoke them, the motivations that underlie them, and what we'll call the level of acceptance. Informational conformity is likely to occur in highly ambiguous situations, times when we are unsure of how to respond. The motivation is to be correct. The idea is that we don't know what the correct response is, so we use social information as a guide for behavior, and we assume that this social information will guide us in the correct direction. We are likely to truly and genuinely accept the group as correct. And so the level of acceptance is internal. We internalize this information. We see all of this in the Sharif study. The Sharif study is the kind of classic study that demonstrates informational social conformity. Sharif utilized a perceptual illusion called the autokinetic effect. The autokinetic effect has to do with our visual processing system. Our visual system is set up to not only identify objects, but to locate them in space. So I need to know that that's a lion over there, and I need to know exactly where it is, how close it is to me. That could be very valuable information in terms of my survival and well-being. So Sharif took advantage of this fundamental aspect of our visual processing system, the fact that it's laid out to identify objects and to locate them in terms of our physical surroundings. He placed participants in a completely dark room in which the only thing that was visible was a dot of light that was projected onto the wall. Now, what would happen is that in this completely dark room, participants could see the dot of light, but they could not locate it in terms of their physical surroundings because there was no visible reference point. And so what would happen is that people's eyes would dart back and forth in an attempt to locate this dot of light, searching for a reference point, but there was none. And so we typically don't ever perceive our eyes as moving. Instead, the autokinetic effect is this perceptual illusion that the stationary dot of light is actually moving back and forth across the wall. So Sharif would ask participants to estimate the amount of movement back and forth of the dot of light. Now, since this is a perceptual illusion, the dot is stationary, it's not actually moving. Any estimates of movement are purely subjective. And so, just as we would expect with a purely subjective estimate, there was a great deal of variability in people's estimates of movement. We see that on this left-hand part of the graph in the alone condition. When participants were in the room alone and independently generating estimates of movement of this dot of light, there's a great deal of variability in their estimates. Subjectively, some people just thought it was moving quite a bit, almost 8 inches, whereas subjectively, some people felt that it was only moving a little bit, less than an inch. And so we see this great deal of variability in people's subjective estimates in the alone condition. But look at what happens when Sharif brought people together in the context of a group and asked them to state their estimates of movement out loud in front of the group. We see that in a short number of trials that people are modifying their estimates of movement. They are adjusting downwards or upwards after being exposed to this social information. So our people who are estimating 8 inches, They hear other people in the group saying 1 inch or 2 inches, and they're adjusting their estimates downward. Those people who saw it moving only a little bit heard other people saying 8 inches, 7 inches, and they are adjusting their response upwards. So we have this highly ambiguous situation. Our participants are unsure. What is the correct answer? I don't know. I think it's moving 6 inches, but I'm not sure. And so in the context of the group, they're exposed to social information. And participants are using this social information as a guide for how to respond. They want to be correct. They're not sure of their answer. They hear other people, they're incorporating that information and altering their estimates with these group trials until the group lands upon a shared consensus of movement, right? We see this convergence of their estimates. Now, there were no explicit instructions to reach a consensus or agreement among the groups, but still we see that participants are engaging in this informational conformity. So we have the situation that's highly ambiguous. We have the motivation to be correct, and we see the level of acceptance in the Sharif study. So when participants are taken outside of the context of the group, so they're taken out of the group, they're now placed alone in the room, they state their estimate out loud, they don't revert back to their original estimate, their independent estimate. They maintain the group consensus. So even outside of the context of the group, once that group convergence has been established, the individuals within that group, even if they're taken outside of the group, they maintain that group answer. And so they keep saying whatever the group had agreed upon as their estimate of movement, even when they're alone. And even up to a year later, if they're brought back into the laboratory and asked to estimate the amount of movement of the light, they maintain that group estimate. So they are truly and genuinely accepting that group established answer as the correct one and internalizing it and using it to guide their behaviors and their responses, even outside of the context of the group.